once, and they said no headgear was allowed.
How did the
spider web
was it
tights.
Obvious that it was a wig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was
It was
having
a terrible
fun.
wig.
See, this is exactly why we have them on the show, and this is what makes them fun.
You're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Julie Damron, local veterinarian for over 20 years. I am so excited about my new radio show, Tales and Tips, on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, Voice of Stockton, and KXVS Radio. I will discuss relevant issues affecting animals and pet owners today, how to avoid common problems, and how to extend the quality of life for your cherished companions. As a community advocate, I will also discuss important social issues that affect our city. I plan to showcase organizations and heroes who are doing amazing things to help others. Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10, starting soon.
KXVS, the voice of Stockton, live. The voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good afternoon, Stocktonians, and welcome to a special edition of Tales and Tips. I'm so honored to have with me Councilwoman Christina Fugazi, who's also a good friend, and we're going to talk about all the amazing things that she is doing in our community. Before we start our chat, I just want to remind you that this evening there is a fundraiser at the Mexican Heritage Facility for Pedro, who's the founder of Road Finch. Unfortunately, he has been diagnosed with stage 4 level cancer, and so we want to help support him to stay tough and be strong and be healthy. That fundraiser starts at 5:30 this evening, and we do also have a 4th of July parade coming up on Wednesday, 4th of July in downtown Stockton. The parade itself starts at 10 a.m., but we do have space available for organizations to have floats or to walk, and you can contact Linda Vasquez, who's the chair, at 361-9422. All right.
I'll be there on 4th of July.
I'll
Hope
be
to
there
see
too.
Everybody out there.
Yes. All right. Take it away, Christina. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. I'm an avid watcher, listener. I know it's usually sometimes when it's usually when I'm at school, but I love the fact that I can count on KXVS to have it posted and promoted because I don't want to miss an episode. I mean, you have great people on here, and now I'm one of them. So.
Yay! I'm excited to have you here.
So I know that you had some questions you wanted to ask me, so shoot.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, let's talk first, and we haven't really discussed this part about your background and how long you've been in Stockton and what is important to you about Stockton, what makes Stockton great.
Well, my family settled in Stockton in 1880. So Benedito Rado, my great-great-grandfather, was actually friends with Captain Charles Weber.
Wow.
And he lived on an ark on the Delta. I mean, he lived on the water. And he had never had really, he came here as a teenager. He had a brother that was already here, so he followed him. He had $8 in his pocket, didn't speak a lick of English, but came over and then became a commercial fisherman and beaver trapper. And so he lived on the Delta, but Captain Charles Weber was trying to make this a main commerce area for people from the Bay Area to travel over here to Stockton. You have to imagine, we didn't have roads, we didn't have cars in the 1800s, so people would travel here. One of the ways was by boat. And so he needed help because the beavers were really messing things up. So my great-great-grandfather helped to build the Deepwater Channel, which is what we use even today. And there's a portion of the Delta that's named after my great-great-grandfather, and it's called Trapper's Slough.
How awesome.
Yeah. So, but my grandmother, who grew up South Stockton in the house that was built for my great-great-grandfather and grandmother, but my grandmother, she married a Lodi boy. So that's hence how we came to be in Lodi. And she had a brother. So the brother, Benny Bava, he stayed here in Stockton. And my grandmother, Evelyn Bava, then Fugazi, moved to Lodi. So I actually was raised in Lodi, but I've always taught Stockton kids. I started teaching in 1994. And when I started working for Stockton Unified School District, I moved into Stockton to be closer to the kids that I was serving.
Awesome.
So I've been active here ever since.
All right. And what originally motivated you to run for city council?
Yeah, I never, ever, ever even thought about that. When I went to my 20-year high school reunion, my classmates were like, look at Christina, the big politician. And I'm like, what? I'm not a politician. And I was on the planning commission. So Susan Eggman, and then Councilwoman Susan Eggman, she had appointed me to be her planning commissioner. And then I served in that position for 8 years. Well, during her second term, she ran for assembly, and she won that seat. And she told me she was going to win it. And she said, hey, after I win assembly, my seat is going to be vacated, and I want you to apply, throw your name in the hat to replace me. And I said, no, no, no. And she kept saying, yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. And then the third time I was at an event, and Tremaine was with me, and she again asked me, and I said, why? I'm sure you have somebody there. And she said, you know what, Christina? You are passionate. You are experienced with the Planning Commission. You are smart. And you know what? You care about this city. So I think you're more than qualified to sit in my seat on city council. And here we are, 5.5 years later, and yeah, I've never looked back.
Awesome. And 5.5 years later, what's different now? What's different for you?
Well, city council wasn't what I thought it would be. I will be really brutally honest about that. Being on planning commission, we're dealing with land use. The general plan is like the most important document because it takes into account everything from open space to housing to economic development to crime and safety, habitat, conservation. I mean, literally, the document is very comprehensive, and it's kind of our blueprint for the future. And so I was chair, I was vice chair, and I served on that for 8 years. And so I thought I was prepared for city council. But now you have to put planning commission on steroids because I have to know now everything about budgets. I have to know about things, economic development at a deeper level than just putting it in the document for general plan. And there's just a lot of the community services, libraries and parks and recreation programs and code enforcement and animal services. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about what a city council member needs to learn about. And so I, jumped in with both feet, and, I'm a teacher, so I know all about homework. I know about grading homework, and now I had to go back to doing homework. And so my perspective has changed quite a bit because, it wasn't what I thought. And people don't quite grasp how government works. And you hear this all the time, 4 votes, it takes 4 votes because there's 7 people on council, and so 4 votes is the majority. But the thing is we're bound by the Brown Act. So when I was fighting to reopen Fair Oaks Library, people at one point were critical, saying, well, I shouldn't have brought it up because I should have known how many votes. Well, how would I know how many votes unless
you talked about it?
Yeah. I mean, people talk about developing coalitions, but government needs to happen in front of the people.
Yes.
It cannot happen behind closed doors, and transparency is of the utmost importance to me. It is why people do not participate in the process, because they think that you've already got it all figured out behind closed doors. So why do I even want to bother to throw in my 2 cents? You've got your mind made up.
And there's reason historically for people to think that, so it's understandable.
It's happened more times. Actually, it's the second, I was told this fact by somebody who used to work for the FPPC. That's the Fair and Political Processes Act, or I'm trying to remember. Governor Don, what's the FPPC again?
I will look it up.
But I was told that Brown Act violations are the second most violated, I guess, law in California. But I'm just like I said, I'm very hypersensitive on that, and the reason, Fair Political Practice Commission, okay, and I'm just, I'm just concerned that when we want people to be involved, but we don't involve them in the process, what do you expect their response to be? So I often ask people, well, what do you think? Or how can I help you? People are always surprised that when I sit down with a meeting with somebody and then I say, well, how can I help you achieve whatever goal it is that you want? Because I don't want to just sit here and nod my head and be like, yeah, and that's the end of the meeting. I'm like, whatever you find that's important to you, if I can help you with that, I want to. Because guess what? It's really basic, on a basic level. If I want to be my best, I have to help you be your best. And that's how I see my role as a council member.
Serving the people.
And it's for the people, of the people, for the people, by the people. And people tend to forget that.
Yeah.
And I haven't. And that's why it's been easy for me to stay true to myself. The only promises that I made very few promises. I said that I would honor the process because I am a science teacher, so I'm very process oriented. I believe that when we have a problem, we make a hypothesis, we do our research, we gather information, we gather evidence, we test it, we then come up with results, and we figure out, hey, has this worked or has it not worked? And if it hasn't, usually when you do experiments, you leads you to more questions.
Yeah.
You get some answers, but it often leaves you to more questions. You very rarely get the outcome that you expected. And so a process is big for me. That's why I spend the amount of time I do researching. And I want multiple modes of information. I don't want all of my information to come from one source, because guess what? That one source might have missed something. I don't let my students use Wikipedia as their source when they do their research. And so that's big. The other thing is about being fair. We've done things in this city where people have been marginalized and have been shortchanged because we've done for one, but we haven't done for the other. And we must be fair. And then the other thing is being inclusive, that we have to involve everybody in the decision-making process. And that's why at council meetings, I love it. When Swenson Golf was on the chopping block, we had 69 public testimonies. 69. We started at 4 o'clock and we went till 11 o'clock. I mean, literally, we were eating our food at the dais there, but we had 69 That's testimonies of people from this community, and there were even more people there that didn't speak, but we could not deny hearing from the people at that point.
And that's huge. It's huge to me. It's awesome with Swenson to see how united the community has become, and several months later, how much of a fight and the innovative things that are being done to save Swenson. Oh,
I know. Doing the farmer's market, doing the coffee and cars, adding the disc golf. Now there's soccer golf. I mean, come on, talk about, the city provided one solution. They did not invest in looking at any other solutions, and the people, they came through, because that's what was said. Listen, if you want this to stay, this is important to you, you need to come up with a solution. Amen to those people who worked their tails off in order to bring those solutions, and they are viable and they are vibrant and they are happening now, and it has turned around the tide on. I mean, they have closed the gap on their surplus,
which is awesome. And so we should give a shout out to Dion Dahlman, Blair Hake, Susie, Brian Lafferty.
Oh yeah, I mean there have been tons of people
Tom Patty was involved.
that are have been working on it, and I applaud all of them. Jean as well.
Friends of Swenson.
Oh, Friends of Swenson have been amazing, and and Randy. I mean, we could go on and on with the list of individuals, but that's what it took. It took something that really hit home for them to get them to get off their couches or out of their own world and to come down and participate. And I just wish that we could have, more people involved in the process like that, because there's a lot of decisions being made. And if you read the paper, I think it was in Today, about the water feature at the waterfront.
Being closed over the summer.
That was the night that I wasn't feeling very well at the council meeting, and I was told to stay home. And I said, oh, no. Because getting the well at Victory Park was on the agenda, and fixing the waterfront water feature were on the agenda. And I said, no, I have things that are very important to my district, specifically to this area, and the water feature there is really primo of high significance for this community.
Yes.
Because it's free.
Yes.
It's free, and we have hot summers.
Yes.
And this is somewhere where it doesn't matter how much money you have in your pocket. You can go there, and I take my nephews there. They love it. They love running through there.
The kids love it.
They do. Well, so do the adults. And I mean, come on. I get hot too.
But it's great to me from the aspect that we don't have a lot of activities for kids. And I love that the kids love it. You hear laughter.
Oh, they're screaming. It's like a school grounds at recess all day long. You drive your car by and you just hear them squealing. Eee! They're so happy, to be there. And I'm super bummed. We need to go through the process though. So, back to process, the way it works is we allocated the funds in order to fix it. Then we have to put it out. We have to create an RFP, which is request for proposals. They don't happen overnight. So it's taken, here we are, June 1st. So this was a March meeting, end of March. An RFP goes out to get individual companies to bid on the project to fix what's wrong with it. And what's wrong with it is we need to make sure we sanitize the water, and we have a system within which that nobody gets sick.
Yes,
and
of course.
I'm a big supporter of that. I don't want to just shoot water. I mean, I grew up going to the swimming pool and smelling the chlorine and having my hair turn color. We knew the water, that anything that was in that water was getting killed. Welcome to my ool. Notice there's no pee in it. We'd like to keep it that way. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gone there.
I think that's cute.
But the point is that it takes time, and unfortunately, McKinley Pool wasn't open last year. We knew it was broken last year. And guess what?
Victory Park.
It's not opening now either, because the process takes so long. It really does. And I am so sorry that I'm heartbroken. I'm absolutely heartbroken that we don't have that water feature up and running. We have a lot of priorities in this city, a lot of priorities. And so if you were to ask me what the priorities are, I have several, but of course crime, which is, here we are at 14 murders already for this calendar year. It's the same number as we were last year. And that's troubling, because we've invested so much time and money and energy, and we're just not quite where we need to be. But you figure with Measure A, we're collecting $30 million a year, and you would expect to see a drop in crime. And while in some areas we've seen a drop, I think overall crime we've seen a drop of like 2 or 3%, which is it's not easy, but we all have to work together on that. So crime definitely. This next one I think is a combined homelessness and housing, definitely, because some of our residents were living in homes, but you have rents going up. You have
cost of living going up.
Yeah, and people are living in their cars. They're living on the street, and they have jobs. I know people who live on the street, mothers and fathers, and they have jobs. But if they have an eviction on their record, you can forget being able to rent, because that eviction, until it goes off after 10 years, you're not going to be able to find housing. So, and we knew we need more affordable housing, and we have projects in the pipeline. The medico-dental building just had an event the other day that is going to have market rate as well as affordable housing. We have 704 North Hunter Street, which is done by Carol Ornelas at Visionary Home Builders of America. That is going to be 74 units of affordable housing, and those are multi. It's up to 3 bedroom.
Awesome.
In there, you have the Anchor Project, which is for veterans that are either homeless or in danger of being homeless, which also provides wraparound services for them with mental health. And it's right by the library, which is great because they have the Veterans Center in the library, Veterans Connect. So you could walk, literally it's a half a block from one to the other, but there's going to be open space there as well at Anchor Village. But we need to do more. Especially because I get messages from people all the time. Do you know of a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a 4-bedroom? And when you have people from other parts of the region that come here because it's more affordable, it pushes out the people who are here. And that's really tough. So I would say...
Can we do anything to stop that?
Well,
are there fees that we can add on?
Actually, we've started. So NOAA, and I forget what NOAA stands for. I have it written somewhere here in my notes. But we have allocated money so that, let me find it. Affordable housing, reducing fees. So we've done that. We've approved accessory dwellings. So if you put like an in-laws unit or something on your property that taps into your existing sewer and all that, it is the fees are much lower for that. Also, if you buy a property, so that's this NOAA project I'm talking about. If you purchase a property, and that's what this group did, they came in and they purchased Pacific Villas that is on El Dorado before you get to March Lane. You get tax credits, but you have to upgrade it, clean it up, whatever, and you have to keep the rents the same. You can't jack up the rents, otherwise you don't get the tax incentives.
Awesome.
And so we've had somebody do that with Pacific Villas, so that's 86 units. Because
Wonderful.
Here's the other thing, and we talked about this last night. I was at Faith in the Valley, and we had a candidates forum, and we talked about the inequity amongst our residents in terms of and the egregious environmental justice on the behalf of people who are living in substandard housing. Everybody needs to have running water.
Yes.
They need to have electricity. They need to have heat. There's building code of baseline things, but the problem is that doesn't include pests. That doesn't include mold. That doesn't include, a crumbling foundation, holes in the roof. There are things. I know I have seen places where people are living, and they don't complain. You know why they don't complain?
They're afraid.
They're going to end up out on the street. Guess what? They're only charging me $500. I'm okay with it. No. We need to ensure that everybody has adequate housing. I'm not saying they're supposed to have granite countertops and subway tiles and
functional housing.
But yeah, and that's why I love the things that are going on, like at Gospel Center Rescue Mission. That they help people for an extended period of time to get back up on their feet and be able to save money in order to get. But then when the time comes and you're looking and you're like, wait, $1,500 a month for a 2-bedroom? Are you kidding me?
It's crazy.
It is. So I talked about a little bit about the crime, the housing, the homelessness, and then I would say the other thing is really quality of life issues, such as our community, making sure that we take care of our parks and our neighborhoods. And part of that, of course, is also working with our police department. I would love it if every community had a neighborhood watch group, because the data shows, it is proven that neighborhood watch communities that are active have lower crime than areas that do not. And I use Nextdoor. I know a lot of people in my neighborhood use Nextdoor. And if somebody's coming through the neighborhood, I can tell you that Angel Freitas is going to post on here that, hey, be on the look. I know the people who repeatedly are on the lookout, looking for their neighbors, looking out on behalf of their neighbors to make sure that nobody is getting taken advantage of.
And it's wonderful. And that has to help to reduce crime. And I love the sense of it brings it back to a community where people care about each other.
Right. Well, and also with that, like Victory Park has really been a struggle for the last couple of years with the well, the connection to the well breaking, and we're now doing a new well, but we've been putting in Cal Water is watering. We have sprinklers, and I apologize when they're going like 24 hours a day, it seems like, but they in order to cover the whole park, they're on a cycle, and it takes a really long time to water that park. So when when I drive by at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm like, oh my God, there's sprinklers on in the heat of the day. Otherwise, it wouldn't get watered. But the Victory Park pool is a big issue for a lot of the neighbors, as well as the safety crossing the street. We have music in the park, and people are taking their lives into their own hands when you're on the east side of the park trying to go west, and the only way you can get to the park is if you walk all the way down to Acacia or all the way up to Harding Way and cross the street. There's no other way to get across. And so cars are flying at 50, 60 miles an hour. So this summer I'm doing a independent transportation research project.
All right.
I purchased a radar gun. And I have members of the community that live in the neighborhood, and my students and we're going to go out there and we're going to clock cars. We're going to count how many people are on their cell phone while they're driving. We're going to count the numbers of cars as they're going. How many of them are blowing through the stoplight. I'm almost at the point where I want to call Dennis Agar from District 10. He is the manager for Caltrans. And I'm almost at the point where I want to close the Pershing off-ramp. Do you know how many accidents almost happen there at I-5 and
it's right by ER where I work.
Right.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Coming on, coming off. But I mean, the Oak one there is because there's not a stop as you come off, but people don't realize that. But when you come off of the Pershing there, as traffic's trying to merge onto I-5 from the Crosstown Freeway, when they come down, there's a yield sign. They don't yield. They don't. They are flying. And I was at a standstill, and a car went flying by so fast that it made me move. Literally moved me. And they're going into a residential. There's not a business there. If you go north on Pershing, there isn't a business there until you go over the water. You go.
It's all residential.
Over, yeah. And then when you get to Country Club, but cars are going in excess of 60 miles an hour. And all it's going to take, and we've already seen, unfortunately, in this city, a number of pedestrians and bicyclists that have been killed. Because of coming in contact with a motorist. So those are the things that, I've got a whole list. Air quality, I sit on the air quality control, the San Joaquin Valley Air Quality Control District. I sit on that board, as well as sitting on the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, and those two work so well together because providing mass transportation that lowers the amount of people in cars driving, because cars provide what's called PM 2.5, which is particulate matter, and 2.5 is the size of the micron of the unit, and it's mobile. So as you're driving, wherever you're driving, you're sputting out this pollutant.
Garbage.
Right, into our atmosphere. And we have the San Joaquin Valley as a whole has the worst air pollution in the United States, which is why our board is run the way it is. I mean, and receives the funding it does because of the amount of work that we do. And so as a result, since I've been on there, we've received more than $5 million into the city of Stockton.
Yay.
To get a locomotive, a zero emission low emission locomotives, 2 for ACE and 1 for the port. So when we talk about our disadvantaged communities, so Boggs Track, where we've changed the road that goes out to the port so that you bypass, the school and the people that live there. But now that the locomotive going out there is going to be a cleaner burning locomotive, same with ACE. And so both of those work hand in hand to improve our air quality, because we have so many people that have upper respiratory problems.
Asthma.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible.
It's crazy. And we have so little green space. We were talking about that earlier, which only makes the problem worse.
I know. If you were to get rid of Swenson, that would then keep in our atmosphere 12,500 tons of CO2, of carbon dioxide.
Wow.
So Swenson removes that amount and tons. So 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, or 2,000. So we're talking about pounds here. So 12,500 tons of air polluting gases, specifically carbon dioxide.
Wow. And I know education has to be a top priority for
Well, it is. And here's the thing. This is my take on education in terms of the city. We don't have any jurisdiction. Like if you ask me about the tunnels, I'm definitely against the tunnels, but we as a city do not have jurisdiction over that. School districts have jurisdiction over education, but here's where we can partner. After school programs. We have Measure M. I was a huge proponent of Measure M for the libraries and recreation, where the community said we will tax ourselves in order to increase that. So this summer we're increasing hours that the libraries open, hours that the community centers are open. We're increasing the number of programs. We used to at one point had over 600 staff members in the rec department. And now the numbers, I think it's up to 125 now. Don't quote me on that. But I mean, there was a time when we had over 600 employees in the rec department alone. And I'm not just talking about sports. I'm talking about kids who are interested in the arts, because not everybody is interested in sports, but we need to really involve everybody of all ages.
Yes.
So when we talk about recreation,
and all over the city too.
Yeah, and what about the seniors? They need to stay active and be involved as well. And so I think that programs, and when we talk about crime, capturing kids when they're younger, providing them with mentorship, with supervision, with help with their homework, with positive outlets to release energy, I think that we will get a huge positive rate of return on that. We've already seen it with Fair Oaks Library, the big rate of return that we've seen by reopening Fair Oaks Library. So, and I think it should be at every campus. I think there should be an after-school program at every school campus, because guess what? Then instead of kids walking home to nothing, they could stay at school, they could play, they could engage, they could communicate, they could build relationships. I mean, there's just so many things. And that's what makes me sad about high school campuses, because unless you're playing a sport for that school, I mean, most of those kids, they get on the bus or whatever, they leave, and it's like a ghost town. But why can't we leave them open?
It only makes sense. The facilities are there. And to me, the more connection and, like you mentioned, mentorship for kids, the longer they're going to stay in school, the less chance they're going to be involved with gangs and drugs and things like that. It makes logical sense And just like you said, any dollar invested there, we get exponential returns.
Right. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we know what works. We've been there before, and we've done it, and we've been successful. So I don't think we need to create anything new. I think what I was talking to you earlier, we need to restore some of the things that we've already have done that we know is successful. And, you know, kids aren't coming home to, you know, my mom's home and my dad's at work. No, we have both parents or single parents that are working. And while some kids like the idea of not having supervision, I'm telling you, I know for a fact that not only do they need it, they thrive under supervision. They really do. Because when somebody cares enough about them to invest their time and energy into them, I mean, that makes you feel pretty good. It's like, hey, you know, you're not even my relative, but you're putting in all this time and energy into me. You know, I can do better. I should do better. And so I really think that those are the things that we need to focus on here in the city of Stockton. We part of the, you know, I said about housing and the homeless, we need to work collaboratively with the county, because the county is the agency, as you well know, Julie, that receives the money for behavioral and mental health. The city doesn't get money for that. We don't have a behavioral health, you know, department.
We should, but
I wish we had a homeless coordinator, because that is one of the biggest costs to our and dangers for our fire department specifically, is that they're going out on so many calls that revolve around homeless or transient population, our population that is creating these fires.
And they're doing it for heat. They're cold or they're cooking.
Yeah, and so it's unfortunate, and they're going into abandoned, you know, buildings, and unfortunately, you know, we've lost a number of structures in the city of Stockton. We've had more structure fires this past year than in the history.
Especially in your district.
Especially in my district. And my district, for those of you that don't know, runs from Harding Way, is the north boundary, runs all the way to Martin Luther King Boulevard, also known as Charter Way. To the west, it goes to the port, which includes Lewis Park, Boggs Track, and then does go to Moss Garden, which is just south of Highway 4, Charter Way, to West 8th Street. And then on the east side, Main Street to Highway 99, and then down to actually Mariposa Road and Farmington Road. And then it goes a little bit down Pock Lane, because of the wonderful gerrymandering that the city did in order to get Ralph White out of South Stockton and into a different district. So it actually cookie cuts around his house at D Street and 8th, and then down Pock. So, yeah. So my district, I have it all. I think I have the best that the city has to offer. I think we just need to polish some of it up. But I think that we also have the most challenges, because that's where most of the city services and county services are in the core of the city. So if you need, you know, if you need behavioral health, you're coming downtown. If you need a social worker, you're coming downtown. If you need to go to the courthouse, you're coming downtown. If you want to get a meal, you're going downtown to St. Mary's. If you want shelter, you're coming downtown to the Stockton shelter. All of that is in the heart of my district, the oldest part of the city. I couldn't be more proud of it, but we've got a lot of issues. And I am one person. It is very hard, but I tell you what I do for the people in my community. When I say community, I'm talking citywide, because a woman came up to me today and said, you're Councilwoman Fugazi, right? And I have my hair slicked back, so I was like, I'm like, but I'm wearing a City Stockton shirt. I've been found out. But she wanted to tell me about an issue that she was having in her neighborhood, a very serious issue. And she said, can you please help me? And I said, yes. I actually was on the phone with the chief right before this interview, talking to him about this issue, this very serious issue in her neighborhood. And he's like, I'm on it.
Awesome.
And so that's the biggest.
And that wasn't in your district.
No, it wasn't in my district. But in my district, I'm kicking butt left and right every chance I get. You know, I do reports daily, you know, on potholes and broken sidewalks, on mattresses. That I literally, the other day, I did 5 reports. 2 broken sidewalks. Actually, I did more than that, because they were comprehensive. So 2 of them were actually broken curbs and buckled sidewalks. 3 of them were for potholes. 1 of them was for a raised asphalt. It was really weird. It was like a bubble. It came up. I've got pictures I can show you where the ground, it was like a car pressed on one side of it, and then the
like a
asphalt came up on the other side. There were 2 mattresses dumped on Park Street, 720 West Park Street. I mean, I can give you the addresses for all these too. But I literally drive my district all the time. I might not talk directly to the residents, but I am trying to clean up one address at a time, trying to clean up the blight, and it's not easy. So while some people might say, oh, that's been out there for a month and no one's done anything, well, if I didn't drive by it, okay, but if I drove, like those mattresses were picked up that day. A business owner that's on Yosemite, where we have some of the best Chinese food. You have China Village there. You have the meat market. You have Blackwater Cafe. I mean, you have 49er Pharmacy.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a great little
center.
Business center. I love it in my neighborhood. But one of the business owners called me and said, I've got this part of my sidewalk and people are tripping over it, and I'm really concerned. So I went, took a picture. On Saturday, because I had a meeting at Blackwater at 10 a.m. on Saturday, but I put it into the system. I called him on Tuesday to say I put it into the system, and he goes, Christina, they're out here right now.
Oh, all right.
He's like, they're here right
awesome.
now. And I'm like, okay, good. So sometimes people reach out to me, sometimes they don't, but I hope nobody thinks that I'm just sitting on my tushy.
No one that knows you thinks that. Trust me.
Well, it's the same for you, Julie. I know you're out there everywhere. But, I mean, there's just one of me. Council is part-time because, I mean, I am very dedicated and love my job as a teacher, and I wouldn't trade that. But after 3 p.m., this city pretty much owns me. When they say, oh, what about your family and your children? This city is my child. I mean, the people of this city, they're like my children. I want to help and take care of all of them and provide them with the best quality of life possible. And for somebody to say different, they're not paying attention.
Let's go back to a couple things that you covered. Your district does face a lot of challenges. Unfortunately, we have a lot of residents that are living at poverty level or below. And unfortunately, your district has a high percentage of those. It's also an area where there's food deserts in that there's not a lot of grocery stores. A lot of people may not have transportation. They're walking. They're going to the corner store, which maybe a liquor store doesn't have fresh produce.
It only has chips and candy and all the stuff you don't want to be eating. So yeah, food desert. So I am going to be proven wrong at this point, because I've always touted how there's no full-service grocery store in District 5. But Big Valley grocery store that's on Mount Diablo across from Victory School, they have actually been doing a makeover. And I went in there. They have a whole fruit and vegetable section. They have a meat counter where you can get steaks or hamburger or whatever. It is. And he wants to do a whole facade improvement. He wants to expand the store. He wants to clean it up. Because when you drive by, you're not really sure. There's bars and things like this. But the owner, the new owner of the store, he's just really excited to be a part of the community.
Wonderful.
And I want to work with him. We have a facade grant that I am encouraging him to apply for that will provide some of the funds. It's a federally funded program. It doesn't come out of the city.
It's not city dollars.
No. It's a federally funded program. It's the facade loan grant, and it's a 100% forgivable loan.
Wonderful.
So cleaning up the exterior of the store of that. And then we also, way over at 99 and Main Street, we have La Superior, grocery store, which is a big market. But other than that, you go in between, there's nothing. And we were talking last night about downtown. So here we're going to build housing for downtown, but they're going to have to get into some form of transportation in order to get anything. Unless you want liquor, soda, chips, that kind of thing. And so Lodi is getting a Sprouts. And I'm like, Mr. Sprout store, will you come to Stockton?
Come to Stockton,
you know,
yes.
Or
To your
S-Mart,
district.
yeah, but I mean, downtown, you think about it. We used to have farmers market downtown, but then with the
It
new
stopped.
courthouse, you know, that's gone. And so, I mean, we have the hub that does a little market. They work with Puentes. It's 1 day a week for a few hours. I mean, what do you do
needs
if
to be
it's
more.
if it's, you know, you're living downtown, maybe in the Cal Weber project, and you need milk? Okay, but you better look at that expiration date, and they might only have whole milk, not low fat,
And
or
maybe some canned vegetables, but they're in sugar, they're in syrup, high salt. The emergency food bank, which I serve on the board for,
that's also in my district.
which is awesome, does go with their mobile van to different community centers and other locations, and they're expanding that. But it's unfortunate that we have significant areas of our city and our county that are food deserts.
And I would love it if we had more gardens, more urban gardens.
Yes.
We have a lot of vacant lots. Well, if you're not going to sell that lot, or you don't plan on selling it just yet, why don't you let the community do a garden there?
Yes.
We have people like Don Aguilar, who does Central Valley Neighborhood Harvest. We have Puentes. We have a lot of different organizations here in Stockton that could help
with that.
We
Master
have the,
gardeners could
yep,
help
the
with that
UC
too.
Davis Extension. I mean, why not? Seeds. The library, the public library has a seed program there where you can go into the catalog, and let's say I want to have some heirloom tomatoes. I can go through there and I could take a few seeds and plant them at my home. And I think that's
Master Gardeners gives out seeds too.
I'm just like, you know, we just need to do the best with what we have.
Yes.
And we don't.
We need to be resourceful.
Right. And there are plenty of open spaces, not large open spaces, but there are plenty of open spaces. And you know what? That's good for our soil. That's good for our air quality. And that's good for us, for our bodies.
Definitely. And the healthier food as well.
Yeah.
So earlier you were talking about how people contact you when there's an issue with potholes or sidewalks, or you'll see it driving around.
Trees are the biggest one.
What number or how can people reach the city to get those problems fixed so that not everyone's reaching out to you specifically?
Well, okay, so if it's those specifically, I do a little newsletter that I hand out. The city does not pay for this. I pay for it. The city does not give me postage. They don't give me, I don't have, I guess I could with my council district funds. I could mail this to every household, but I rather give it to people who are doing the real work. So if there is illegal dumping, park maintenance, potholes, etc., you want to contact the Municipal Service Center, and the phone number is 937-8341. So you can call them and leave a message if they don't answer, and you can let them know where the problem is. So for example, today I was driving and I saw a tree branch that was down, and I called in the number. Usually I take a picture. My main mode of reporting though is, because I drive and I see it firsthand, is I drive by, I take a picture, and I do an Ask Stockton report. So I have 4 pages here of all these reports I've done of abandoned cars. I can read some of them to you. Garbage, junk, debris on private property, abandoned operable vehicle, trash dumped in the city right-of-way, speeding. I was trying to get like a traffic light or stop sign there, but I do reports regularly, and then it tracks them, so I know who's taking care of it, when it's going to be taken care of. So if there's a specific person that calls me personally and asks me to help them with something, I could then send them, this is going to be taken care of by this date. If not, I'll get a report and I'll let you know.
Can a citizen do an Ask Stockton report?
So it's www.stocktonca.gov/ask.
Awesome.
But if you go to the city's website, it's the first bullet on the right-hand side where it says, Ask Stockton. If you click on that, then it gives you the list of things. You click on it, you type in the information. I'm telling you, this is the most efficient way. The online Ask Stockton, I'm telling you, is it. I have trained people how to do this, or I shouldn't say train. I've taught them.
You've encouraged them to do it.
And they have, Mr. Demas, Mr. and Mrs. Demas that live on East Taylor Street in the Stribbley Park. Oh, I probably shouldn't have given all their information. But Mr. Demas, he should be the spokesperson for Ask Stockton.
Wonderful.
Because he does a report, and it gets done.
And that ties in with the neighborhood watch, because just like you've experienced, I've seen that if people dump garbage and it sits there, then other people are going to dump garbage, and the pile is going to get bigger. There's going to be more piles. The sooner that it's taken away, the less chance for more dumping.
And here's the other thing, because it's summertime now, and we had a lot of rain, and we have weeds, tall weeds. If weeds are 2 or 3 feet high, please call the services, the service center, or go on to AskStockton.com, because we can't afford to have any more fires. Our fire department, we're 16 firefighters down, which means we have openings. So if you're interested in being a firefighter, please, please, please.
Men and women.
Yes, especially women. We could use you out there, ladies. Girl power, go. But we could really use you. And so I just want people to know that all the power really is in your hands. You just have to be able to know how to navigate and then take advantage of it. And like I said, you can contact me. I'm more than happy to help anybody with any issues, no matter where you live in Stockton, whether you are a registered voter or not. I could care less. But you can contact me at Christina, that's with a CH, don't forget the dot or the period after my name, my first name, Fugazi, F as in Frank, Ugazi, at StocktonCA.gov. And if I can help you, I will. But I'll tell you this one thing. I can't pay anybody's bills. I can't help you by paying your bills. But if you have a quality of life issue, please contact me, because that's the one thing about this job that I really do love, is that I can help. And I told that to students the other day. They wanted to know what it took to be a council member. And I said, really, in my opinion, what it takes is you have to have a passion for helping people.
And compassion.
Yeah.
Goes with that. Those are tied
And
together.
that's why education has been a great training ground for me, because I've been helping kids in this city since 1994. One of my students, he's actually the bar manager at University Waterfront Hotel and Plaza, and I saw him last night, and he's got gray hair, 4 kids, and I introduced him. I go, Christopher sat in front of me in my class, his freshman year, and here he is, and he's like, she was my favorite teacher. I'm like, oh, he says that all the time, but yeah, here he is. I get to run into my students all the time.
How many hours a week, separate from teaching, do you dedicate to the city?
Well, there's some weekends I start at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. and I get done at 10 or 11 p.m. When you're talking about reading through material, like I get my staff report on Thursday. I spend Friday, I peruse it. I just briefly peruse it Thursday night. I'll allocate some time Friday night. I do more research on Saturday and Sunday. Then I have my meeting on Monday. But I would say with all the boards and commissions that I'm on, as well as all the events I go to, I would say anywhere from 40 to 80 hours on top of my teaching.
And I believe it. I've seen you out there all over.
And I don't even post a lot of the stuff I go to. Literally, I have
10,000
10,000 pictures. I don't have time. But I can't do everything. And how easy is it for me to show up to somebody's event and say thank you? Sincerely, thank you for what you do in our community to make it a better place. That's such a simple thing, but people go unappreciated every day. And so, Julie, seriously, thank you, Julie Damron-Brown, for all the things you do for our community to make it a better place.
Thank you. The same to you. The same to you. And what's exciting to me is to hear, after all the time that you've dedicated and all these hours, your enthusiasm, and it's obvious how important the city is to you and the community members. It's awesome.
Somebody once said, "Oh, we don't need a cheerleader." Yeah, Stockton does need a cheerleader, and I don't mind being a cheerleader. So I would say that you do have to have. It's not an easy job, and I get beat up every now and then. But the bottom line is this: the good far outweighs the bad any day of the week. But I'm starting to get feeling a little old.
Well, but look at the difference, the huge difference that you've been able to make, not only with students, but all of your community input and time, and all the stuff that you do that's separate from the stuff for the city. All of the organizations that you support and the events that you're at. I mean, I remember last year when we had the cleanup at the Gospel Center Rescue Mission, and you were there working on that. And all of the major events that are going on in the city, you're always there.
Well,
awesome.
Like I said, I want to be part of the solution, and that means I have to roll up my sleeves and get involved. I don't have a problem with that.
Awesome. Any final words?
No, I just, thank you, Julie, so much for having me today. I appreciate that. I know that there were a lot more questions on your list. I apologize for not getting them there, but I know we have another
important things.
We have another amazing group that is, going to speak about a very important event tomorrow. And so like I said, I'm just happy that I could, share with people kind of, where my heart is, where my mind is, and know that my heart, my mind, and my feet are all in alignment. I am about moving forward and creating opportunities here in Stockton.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you were here, and it was really important to hear all of the amazing things that you said, and I'm excited for next week, and hopefully it'll bring good things for our community.
For both of us.
Yes.
And our community, because I think both of us, we have a heart and a passion for our communities.
Most definitely. All right, and with that, I'm going to sign off. I am the voice of Stockton. You are the voice of Stockton. We are the voice of Stockton. Let's make it a great day.
Yes. High five.